What's up, music makers? It's Luke from Sojourner Tracks, and today I want to talk about how to make an atmospheric shimmer pad effect using only Logic stock plugins, so that you could take a basic guitar part like this and turn it into something like this. Cool? Let's check it out. Okay, so the reason I was thinking about this was I was listening to the latest Jimmy Eat World album, and one of the guitar parts had something like this effect going on. It's something I've run across many other times before, and there are some pedals that you can use to get this kind of effect that I love on guitars. And it just made me think, like, how could I get that effect in Logic using the stock plugins that are available? And the way I went about this was I kind of broke it down into three different elements. So you have your pitched elements, you have your movement, which would be your delays, and then you have your space, so your reverb. And that really helped me to put this together. So as you're building your own effects, hopefully that kind of that framework might help you to do that in the future. And I'm just going to go through what I did, kind of the reasoning behind it, so that as you start to build effects, or if you want to build an effect like this, you can use this as a starting point. And it's not the kind of effect you would want to build. Well, there are almost no effects that I would want to build on the channel strip itself. If that's something that you're doing, I would suggest that you don't do that. So I have a bus set up here going to an aux channel. If you don't know how to do that, that's bus. And then if you click on one of these empty buses, it will automatically create a track over here. You want it to be a stereo track. So you got the two little overlapping circles. That's your stereo track. And we'll just go through these one by one. Like I said, my first element was, oh, and by the way, I'm going to put this channel strip up on my Patreon page for my Patreons. If you want to check the link in the description below, you can check that out. But we're going to go over this so that you can build it yourself. And so I got a stereo aux channel pulled up here. The first thing I did was the pitch shifter, and I loaded that up in dual mono. And so if you go down here to pitch and go to pitch shifter on a stereo track, you'll be able to pull that up in dual mono. And if you're not familiar with that, I have a video on that. You can check that out in the links as well. But basically it gives you left and right controls separately. So it's one plugin, but I get to do different things to the left than I do to the right. And so what I did on the right side, I've got 12 semitones, meaning that's a full octave above the original part. And then I went 3 cents positive. That's just a way to detune a little bit. You'll notice here, I'm going to focus a lot on doing different things left and right, because that is a great way to add dimension. So to widen your sound out, get some extra space in there. And I will play this a little bit and then talk about it a little bit more so you can see what this is actually, or hear what this is actually doing to the sound. So you can hear there's that kind of plinky, really high-pitched sound coming out of the right. That's the above octave. And the reason I have the mix pulled down to 27 on that side is because that gets really annoying. And you may have noticed also that, like, this is not really meant to pitch shift polyphonic instruments. So the way that this plugin is set up is actually kind of not designed for this, but that's what I like about it, is because it's doing a kind of a bad job of grabbing those pitches and shifting them. So it's a little bit unpredictable. It's not great. And I think that adds a lot of character to this. And that's kind of what I'm going for, is trying to build some different pitch characters as we build the pad part of this effect. So in the left channel, I've got, it's set at 0. So it's just it's basically pitching the same part as the original. I've detuned it a little bit and added a lot of mix on that as well. So that's pretty basic. But I wanted to go a little bit further with the pitch elements. And so I brought up the tape delay also in dual mono. And I'm not using this so much for the delay aspect of it. Because if you've played around with this at all, there's this great modulation section as well as the character section where you can get a little bit of drive out of it. So both left and right, I've pulled back the delay. It's not all the way back, but it's just enough. It just gives it a little bit of a slap, tiny bit. So it's not, I'm not really using it for the delay aspect. It is giving it some depth, but I have the feedbacks pulled up pretty high. But again, the main thing that I'm doing here is with the LFO and the Flutter. And the LFO is going to be your kind of warbly detuning sound, you know, that you may associate with vinyl records when they're being played at the wrong speed or what have you. And then the Flutter is just like it sounds, so sort of a fluttery sound, also associated with tape and vinyl. I guess it'd be more tape, but I'm going to play this, bring this in and out, and then I will tweak the LFO and the Flutter so you can hear some of what that's doing as well. Okay, so you can hear there's a lot of detuning going on there. Definitely some kind of nasty, dirtiness going on in there that's making this pitch blend of different elements of the pitch shifting and the modulation are interacting with one another. And you're really getting some interesting things going on that you may or may not like at this point. I wouldn't call it lovely, which is why we are not finished quite yet. So that was kind of where I stopped with the pitch elements. And these aren't hard and fast numbers, you know, don't get hung up on this stuff. It's kind of like to your taste, and you kind of have to play around with it and figure out what works best for you, what you like best. So these are just sort of guide markers, if you will. And the next thing that I did was the stereo delay. Now this is where I actually want to get the delay from. And again, an opportunity to do something different in the left and the right. I did cut around 200 on both of these and took a little bit of the high end out just to kind of mellow the signal a little bit in the delay. I'm going to bring this in and out so you can hear what this does. So I've got in the left channel, I've got an eighth note delay, and in the right channel, I've got a quarter note delay. And you'll see in the output, I've actually kind of favored the right channel in this a little bit because I really like the way that the quarter note propels this effect a little bit further. And also I've got the feedback on both of these set at 30, and then the crossfade or crossfeed set to 50%, and that will allow some of the right channel to end up in the left and some of the left to end up in the right, which really just starts to blend and wash everything out, which is what we're essentially going for. So this is really starting to take shape here. There's just one more element of this that I added to kind of tie it all together, and that is the space delay plugin. And I will play that for you right now. So that, as the final element, really ties everything together, and it takes the kind of the harshness that's coming out of some of the fluttering and some of the higher octave. It takes the harshness there and really mellows that out, softens it out, and spreads it out into the stereo space really nicely. So what I've got here is the sustain plate, which is in the plates in large spaces, under the large space category there. And the only thing I really did to it was I added, I think it starts out at 200 or 100%, and then I pushed that up to 200% size, so it really just made it a little bit bigger. And then I added 81 milliseconds of pre-delay, which kind of pushes the reverb back off of the dry signal a little bit. And I pulled this down. I pulled the wet signal down because at 0, it was very overwhelming. And then I had the send pulled down a little bit, so I'm not sending quite as much to this effect, kind of not be overwhelming in that way as well. And that was pretty much it. Like I said, it's going to be available. This channel strip will be available on my Patreon page if you want to check it out, but you now have the info to go and make that for yourself. So I hope you try that out. Let me know in the comments below the kind of stuff that you like to do. There are so many different options you can do as far as even bussing some of these delays out. So you can create like the Inception version of effects channels where you can really get deep into the weeds. So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing with your effects. Are you creating them yourselves? Are you using presets? I hope this has been helpful to you, inspires you to get out there and do it for yourself. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.